again in this profession. Sometimes our families can be an obstacle to our vocation if you're not careful, especially on the continent of Africa. Today we are gathered here to celebrate the joy of the church in religious life, religious profession. One of the many vocations the church offers to the Christian faithful to fulfill the discipleship of Jesus Christ. And in these 4 young ladies, Sister Gladys, Jacqueline, Nancy, and Nora, the Lord wants to revive our faith. The Lord wants once more to present to us the commitment required of every Christian in their life. We want to join you in the joy of celebrating your religious vocation by saying to Christ perpetually, we are yours. The 2 local congregational leaders, I have been struck by their names. They have very interesting names. One of them is called Murund. Morondo is a gun. And another is called Musundi. Musundi is one who pushes, who forwards. So one is forwarding you, another one is pointing a gun at you. There is no going back. For those of you who are making a perpetual profession today. In the first reading, we are presented with the prophecy of Isaiah. And the prophecy of Isaiah is coming just after the return of the people of God from exile in Babylon. But how the return from exile in Babylon has happened is of interest to us. The people of Israel have been liberated from slavery by a foreign ruler, Cyrus of Persia is the one who has fought and beaten the emperor of Babylon. And in doing that, Babylon, which had enslaved the people of God, Israel, after being beaten, Cyrus releases them to go back home. For a leader who does not believe in God, he does more than release them to go back home. He gives them the means to go back home. But he does something even more. He gives them the resources to reconstruct their country. But even more, he gives them the resources to reconstruct the temple, the house of God in Jerusalem, on Mount Zion. This is the background of today's reading, so that people have gone back to their own land. With a lot of joy, a lot of expectation, and the desire to reconstruct their country by beginning with the reconstruction of the temple. But things are not as they expected on the ground. On the ground, they meet resistance. They meet resistance from those who have been left behind, from their neighbors. There is no collaboration as they had expected. Perhaps they had expected too much. And because of this, they fall into a crisis of faith. How is it possible that God would have liberated us from Babylon, brought us home, only to lead us into a crisis? Why are things not working out as we expected? These are the questions disturbing the liberated people of God, who have just come from Babylon, back to the freedom of their land, the land promised to their ancestors and given to them. How is it possible that things have become so difficult after many years of waiting, about 70 years of waiting in exile? And coming back home, they are faced with challenges. And their faith is in a crisis. They find themselves in a situation similar to that of the people of Israel coming out of Egypt towards the promised land. Liberation from Egypt was one thing. The journey through the desert for 40 years was quite a different story. And they also were faced with many challenges. And they almost entered into crisis of faith, one after another one, on the way towards the promised land. Now the returnees from Babylon to the Holy Land are facing a similar situation. It is in this situation that we hear the prophecy of Isaiah, the first reading of today. The prophecy of joy. The prophet is telling them, rejoice. And he's expecting them to take on the mood of a wedding ceremony, where the bride and the bridegroom are adorned in ornaments, garlands. They look handsome, they look beautiful. In a moment of crisis, is the prophet for real? Yes, the prophet is for real. And that is the work of the prophet. The prophet is expected to lift the spirit of the people during the lowest moments of their life and inspiring them hope again. And the hope is inspiring the people of Israel is a unique hope. He's telling them God is not just going to adorn them with ornaments of material things, but two special garlands. One, salvation, and two, righteousness. The prophet Isaiah is telling the people of Israel, the Lord is coming in his might. God is faithful. And he's coming to give you gifts that money cannot buy. The wealth of this world cannot buy. Only God, gratuitously, can give these gifts. And the gifts are salvation, is the crown you're going to receive. Righteousness, the garland He's going to give you. This is the promise of God, the people of Israel, if they remain faithful. They are in the situation they are in, and they were in the situation they were because of their unfaithfulness. They brought trouble upon themselves. Now He's telling them, be faithful, because God is always faithful. And as a mark of His faithfulness, you expect from Him salvation and righteousness. My dear false sisters, I don't think there is any greater promise for your commitment to Christ than this promise of the prophet Isaiah in the first reading. for your commitment. For having left your homes, what does He promise you? Salvation and righteousness. This takes us back to the shore of the Sea of Galilee, the gospel reading of today, where Jesus invites 4 men to discipleship. As He's inviting 4 women today to discipleship. And today, I'll give each one of you a new name according to the gospel of today. Because we have 4 men who are being called, and we have 4 women being called today. Each of you takes upon yourself each of these names. And you must accept the ultimate price they had to pay themselves for being disciples of Jesus Christ. But listen to the circumstances under which they are called. Jesus is walking by the Sea of Galilee. But remember, the gospel has already told us before, it is Galilee of the Gentiles. Israel was divided into 2 kingdoms. The northern kingdom, the larger kingdom, and the southern kingdom, the smaller kingdom. The northern kingdom, the kingdom of Israel. The southern kingdom, the kingdom of Judah. The northern kingdom had been assimilated with the people they found in the land. This is very important. The northern kingdom are people who, when they entered the promised land, they did not push out the tribes they found there. They lived with them and they got assimilated with them. What is more, they had neighbors who were Gentiles. They had the Phoenicians, the Syrians, and the Persians on their borders. So the northern kingdom was marked by this closeness to Gentiles. It is because of this that the southerners looked down upon the northerners, because they were not pure blood of the people of God. They had allowed themselves to be mixed with the Gentiles. That is why at one point we hear one of them from the south asking, can anything good come from Nazareth? Because Nazareth was in the north. And they were mixed up with the Gentiles. Can anything good come from Nazareth, the region of Galilee? And yet, that is where Jesus begins his ministry. Jesus begins his ministry in the north, among the polluted people, among the despised people, among the people upon whom the southerners looked down. That is where he begins his mission. And for you, the 4 sisters, this is important. Jesus begins his mission among people who were counted as if they were polluted. They were unclean. And then it is there, along the sea, he meets his first closest associates. He saw 2 brothers. Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew, his brother. They were casting a net into the sea. They were at work. They were not idlers, for they were fishermen. Whereas the work of fishermen was not the lowest in the society, at the same time, it was not one of the most eminent jobs in the world at that time. It was a very modest way of earning a living, very modest way of earning a living. And Jesus goes to choose these modest laborers to begin his ministry. Peter and Andrew, his brother, they were casting the nets. They were fishermen. And he said to them, follow me. Now at this point, the power of the Word of God, made manifest only at creation, becomes visible at the invitation of this first 2. At creation, God commanded and it happened. Listen to this today. Jesus says, follow me. What happens? I'll make you fishers of men. Immediately, they left their nets and followed him, just like at creation. God commanded, and it happened in Jesus Christ. Is made visible the power of the Word of God, as was made manifest at creation. The Word of God brings about things. It moves into activity. It makes the human person do and act. He says, follow me. Immediately, without asking questions, they left their nets and followed him. Without asking questions. And going from there, a little further, he saw two other brothers. James, the son of Zebedee, and his brother John, in the boat with Zebedee, their father, who were mending their nets. And he called them, and the story repeats itself. Immediately, they left the boat and their father, and they followed him. The immediacy of the response of this four cannot go unnoticed, my dear brothers and sisters, especially the four of you. The immediacy of the response of these four, the invitation of Jesus Christ. This is what's expected of each one of us. Not only during your first profession, not only during this perpetual profession, every day of Christian call and living is an invitation of immediate response to the call of Jesus. Follow me every day. And every day, immediately leave everything and follow him. And look at what they leave behind. They leave behind the sea, the nets, the boats, and a father. Come to think of it. And the father. One person once said, in reflecting on this invitation of Jesus Christ and the group of all his apostles, if you had to put Jesus Christ together with all his 12 apostles and look behind them, how many things would you count that they had left? How many things would you count behind them that they had left? Many. A few are mentioned here. And one of them touches on my favorite topic when I'm talking to religious. They left behind their father, family. This is an important part of religious life. Sometimes we don't realize the importance of it, especially in Africa. This detail is important. That the two brothers leave behind their father without asking questions. You think it was easy? You think it was easy? You think it's going to be easy for you? Not by any means. They left and they followed him. I have repeated over and over again. I'm going to say it again in this profession. Sometimes our families can be an obstacle to our vocation if you're not careful. Especially on the continent of Africa. Our families can be an obstacle to living out our vocation. And we have to be very careful about this. That is why sometimes, even before sisters profess the first profession, the parents must be inducted. They must understand their children are going for a job to bring back salary home. There is need for induction. We should not take things for granted, because tomorrow they are going to become an obstacle in the life of the religious person. Yes, honor your father and mother. That is true. By the time Jesus Christ is calling his disciples at this point, honor of father and mother was one of the supreme laws among the Jews. In spite of that, these two scandalously leave their father behind and proceed on to follow this guy whom they hardly knew. This scandal must persist in religious life even up to today. The abandonment of our family, precisely because they are precious, we leave them behind. We have to leave behind destructive relationships. We have to leave behind sinful relationships. We have to leave behind whatever is not going to be of help to us in the furtherance of our religious vocation. Wazazi wapendwa, watoto wenu wanatolewa leo kwa Mungu kikamilifu. Sasa bwana yao ni Kristo. Si unajua vizuri Kristo akichukua mtoto wako anakupatia ng'ombe wengi. Si ndio mnajua hivi? Wazazi badwana, najua nyinyi mnajua ng'ombe vizuri. Kristo akichukua mtoto wako atakupatia ng'ombe wengi. Lakini sio wa kuhesabiwa. Ng'ombe hiyo wale wanakuja kwa njia nyingine. Kristo atawapatia mbuzi wengi. Lakini hao mbuzi watakuwa kwa njia nyingine. Ni vizuri muelewe wazazi, mnajua, lakini wacha nirudie, watoto wenu wanapochukua utawa sio kazi ya kuleta mshahara nyumbani, na mnajua hivyo. Hata kama wana kazi wanaifanya, mshahara wao wote unaenda wapi? Kwa shirika. Hakuna hata Nakuru wanaweka. Mahitaji yao yanaonekana, alafu wanasaidiwa jinsi kulingana na mahitaji yao. Wanajinyima kila kitu kulingana na injili ya leo. Hawa wafuasi wa Kristo waliacha kila kitu wakamfuata Kristo, wakamwacha hata baba yao na neti zao na mashua yao na kazi yao. Waliacha kazi yao ambayo iliwapatia pesa. Hao wanne wataacha kazi yao, wataifanya, lakini pesa hawatapata. Itaenda kwa shirika. Kwa sababu hao wanne leo, Jacqueline, where you are Peter. In the celebration of today, you are Peter. Okay? I don't know your personality. I don't know whether it rhymes that of Peter. Okay? But take it that way for the celebration of today. Gladys, where are you? You are Andrew. For the celebration of today. Nancy, where are you? You are James. And Nora, where are you? You are John. The two of you are daughters of thunder. Okay? Because James and John were sons of thunder. Yet you are leaving everything. The nets, the boats, the work. And Christ is transforming your giftedness and placing it at the service of something even greater. My dear four sisters, notice that Christ chooses ordinary 4 men at first, and the rest were also ordinary. Why? Because the work that he's going to do is going to be done irrespective of your ordinariness, irrespective of your weakness, irrespective of your frailty. We must add, irrespective of your strength. That means it is not our strength that is going to make the work of God go ahead. Whether strong or weak, it is the grace of God that is going to push forward this ministry and this work of evangelization. Lest we think it is because of our giftedness that the work of God is going on. Christ chooses ordinary men. And he's choosing you ordinary women, just as he chose us ordinary men from ordinary backgrounds to become instruments of his salvation and instruments of his righteousness. So you, Peter, you, Andrew, and you, James, and you, John, you will leave behind everything. Your parents have symbolically presented you the sanctuary to the altar. That means they're creating a certain amount of distance between them and yourself. That distance, that honorable distance between your vocation and your family must be maintained, and it must be there. It is a necessary distance if we are going to live our vocations fruitfully wherever we are sent. And Christ gives you new parents. Now, God never takes away something from you unless he's going to give you something greater. Never. In the history of the relationship between God and humanity, he never takes something from you which is good unless he is going to replace it with something better. Today, your parents are handing you over from your family, and they're handing you over to an even greater family. And that bigger family, you will find their parents who will play the role that would have been played by your natural parents, from which family you have come. May the salvation of Christ, the righteousness which he is bestowing on you today, be your guide and lead you. One day you may rejoice around the table of salvation in heaven, together with all the saints and all the angels. Today you are saying, we are facing that way. You don't belong in Luanda anymore. You don't belong in the Diocese of Kisii anymore, the three of you. You now belong where you are in this larger community of the people of God. This you will serve with commitment wherever you are sent. When you are sent, wherever you are sent, just go. Even if you don't like the place, just go fast. That's what you are told information many years ago. Just go fast. You arrive, then you raise your complaints. Don't raise your complaints for God's judgment before you go. Even if you know, it is because the superior hates you. Even if you know and you are sure. I have been sent to this place because the superior hates me. You know that, you are very sure. Just go fast, okay? And when you have gone, come back for a discussion and tell the superior, I know you have sent me to this place because you hate me. You have been hating me ever since I came to this congregation. Even the way you look at me on a daily basis, it is visible. But fast, do what? Fast, go. It makes a very big difference. Just go fast, then discuss. You'll be a very happy sister. Very happy sister. People underestimate the importance of obedience in living religious life. People underestimate the power of obedience in living religious life. People underestimate. And remember, the world looks at obedience as a weakness. Yet, in religious life, obedience is a strength. It's a powerful instrument for evangelization. We join you in joy. We pray for you. We bless you. What you are doing today, God is placing his special stamp on it. And is consecrating you to himself, for himself, and for His church. May you be truly holy women in the Church of Christ, as sisters of this institute is accepting you perpetually today. And may you become true members, examples of the discipleship of Christ, having left everything immediately without